Oh my god, what am I doing? Hi, welcome to Just Thinking Out Loud. My name is Desi-Rae. I'm going to talk about Trump's go back to your country comments and what I think about it, and whether or not he's a hashtag racist president. I'll just give the disclaimer. I think American politics are insane. I don't even like how my brain has become twisted and I just think about this all the time. So Trump made a couple tweets last weekend. He said, "So interesting to see progressive, in quotations, Democrat congresswomen who originally came from countries whose governments are a complete and total catastrophe, the worst, most corrupt, and inept anywhere in the world, if they even have a functioning government at all, now loudly and viciously telling the people of the United States, the greatest and most powerful nation on earth, how our government is to be run. Why don't they go back and help fix the totally broken and crime infested places from which they came? Then come back and show us how it is done. These places need your help badly. You can't leave fast enough. I'm sure that Nancy Pelosi would be very happy to quickly work out free travel arrangements." Exclamation point. Actually, it's not funny. I shouldn't laugh. I noticed a lot of words here: most corrupt, inept, vicious, etc. This is kind of language that Trump uses, and I just want to know it does stir up emotions. However, other politicians do it too, not just Trump. So when I first saw this tweet and I saw all the backlash surrounding it, I immediately wanted to break it down. I thought it was interesting more so than anything else. There was a part of it that did resonate with me, which I will get into. And then there was a lot of it that I didn't like. So there was both a good and a bad side to it. To give some context and to clarify, he didn't actually point out a specific congresswoman, but people have assumed that he meant Ilhan Omar, and I would assume that's who he meant. But because he said congresswoman and not just congresswoman, that does lead people to think that he must have been talking about other people. And from articles that I've seen flying around on the internet, not literally flying, I do think that people have been saying that he was talking about Ayanna Pressley. I didn't know of her until now. And Rashida Tlaib, and also Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, all of whom, except for Omar, were born in the United States, and they are all citizens. Omar came as a refugee from Somalia. She came as a teenager. So I do think it's an assumption that he was talking about all of those people, and it could have just been like a sleight of tongue, because sometimes when you're talking about one person, you will pluralize it. I do think people do that. However, I also think he could have been lumping people together. I think that is possible because of the kind of policies that they advocate for. They are generally left-leaning. I was trying to look up exactly what some of their policies were, and I don't know them very well, but I saw some articles about them being for the new Green Deal and also for abolish ICE. I'm not sure which congresswoman specifically, and about a lot of people on the moderate left not being happy with them being for what they would consider extreme, more socialist policies. And there was also one other policy. Oh, and Medicare for all. So pretty left-leaning in terms of the economic traditional sense of what it means to be on the left programs. So that's the context of where they're from, and then also the kind of policies that they're proposing. So I'll start with what I did sort of agree with about the tweet. I'm starting with that. I'm not saying that's the only thing I think about it. I'm personally very tired of people coming from countries like where I'm from, which is from Jamaica, and then wanting to advocate and vote for policies that are exactly the reason why their countries are the way they are. Particularly socialistic policies. I think just wanting to provide for people and distribute the consequences of behavior among the population, and then the consequences of hard work and reward among the population without their say, is a very bad thing. I do believe in charity and helping others, but I think that the state does not discriminate and often hurts those that it claims to be trying to help. So I know that's really broad. I'm not getting into the specific policies, but I am generally against socialism and socialistic policies where you use tax revenue in order to run programs that it's just welfare through the state through different programs. I'm against it. It is due to my background and where I come from. I have a video where I talk about democratic socialism in Jamaica. I was already not for it before I actually did some of that research, because I think that it's wrong to take money from one group of people and then give it to others without their consent. So I really think that's an issue, and I think that is why that tweet will resonate with a lot of people. I think it's something that should be discussed, and if you're just importing people who don't do the self-reflection and analysis to understand why they're trying to leave a certain situation to come for economic opportunity, usually in the States, but then not respect and understand how the same certain values are actually what made them want to come to this country. Like, I think there's a gap in self-reflection and analysis. Like, a lot of people don't really analyze. They just see the benefits that they want, and then they come to a certain place to get it, and then they will literally tear down the very things that made them come impossible. So I have a big issue personally with that, and I agree with that aspect of the tweet. And I think that Trump says a lot of things like that you're not allowed to say, because once you say something like that, then it turns into, oh, you're racist, and just accusations of xenophobia, etc. And I think honestly that there is a little bit of that too. However, the bigger part of what he's saying, I think, has some underlying truth to it. That's my opinion. Don't kill me for it. Now, to look at what I don't like about what he said or thought was bad, I do think that it's wrong to attack the person and not their position. However, I think many politicians do this. It's not just Trump that does this. And I do think that what he was saying is actually relevant to the general population. There are lots of immigrants coming in, not all of them, many of them who do want to recreate the same environment that they are leaving from. So behind what he was saying and the way he decided to dress it up in an attack and being mean and trying to undermine the authority of whichever congresswoman he was talking about, definitely Omar Ilhan, and then maybe other ones as well, there is some truth behind what he was saying. And this is the thing with Trump. There is usually some truth behind what he's saying, and it's something that it's not easy to say in the general society, because the kinds of people that you're talking about, even though you're not specifically talking about them being a certain color, it's about the kind of ideas that they have. Once you criticize someone, it immediately becomes about the person's color and you being racist, or where they're from and you being xenophobic. So he's speaking for a lot of Americans, and that is why he was elected, because I think the left has created a state and condition in society where you can't say how you feel, because you will immediately be called names. And so when that has happened, then you sort of get the extreme version of this, which is Trump. That's what Trump is. He's an extreme version of the silenced voice, and that's what you get. So for a lot of people, he's talking about more than just these three women. He's talking about the experience that many people in the general population are having in their lives and feel like they want someone in power to represent that voice for them. I think it comes out in a really bad way. And I think that him telling them to go back to their country is irrelevant. I think it's rude. He's very often rude, and saying that they should go back to crime-infested places particularly puts an association in people's heads of them being from crime-infested places, and I think that's not okay to do, actually, and it's a way to undermine their authority when they're speaking and undermine their position by undermining the person just through that association in language. He could have made it less personal, and he could say that these ideas that they're proposing are the same ones that many immigrants are coming to the US to in order to escape from. He could do that, but that wouldn't really be the style of politics in this modern day and age at all. It's all about ad hominem attacks and all sorts of stuff like that. But I do still think that there was an argument behind what he was saying. I definitely don't think he's racist. Criticizing someone who is of a certain color doesn't automatically make you racist. And because the Democrats are pointedly picking people who are non-European ancestry in order to represent them, I mean in an obvious way, since many people are actually mixed. Once you criticize the Democrats, you end up criticizing someone who is of a certain color or background. It's almost by design. I'm even giving people on the left the benefit of the doubt. I don't agree with it at all, but they're trying to raise up voices that they think have been oppressed in the past. That's their opinion on it. However, once you do that, that means that if you're not on their side, whenever you talk about the left or the people who are their spokespersons, you end up criticizing them. And criticizing someone who is of a certain color does not make you racist. That just doesn't work that way. There's more to racism than just that. They're not mutually exclusive, so you could have someone criticizing someone of a certain color and they are racist. However, the way that word is used nowadays is just anybody who does it at any time. Well, they just use... It's the same thing. It's the same thing that Trump is doing, but from the other direction. They say that, well, you're criticizing the person and not what they're saying, and you're criticizing them because of where they're from or because of how they look, but actually you're criticizing what they're saying and what they believe in, and they just happen to be from a certain place. And it is true that sometimes where they're from, their certain ideas have flourished in that area. So it's very complicated and complex, but no, I don't think that it's just automatically racist just because he was criticizing them. I think a stronger argument would be for xenophobia, and then still I think xenophobia is a bit harsh, but he's like trending towards there at the same time, because I think there was truth to what he was saying, but he was making those associations. Like I said, I'm not trying to say that I am not trying to defend bad behavior. I'm just trying to say that it's really complicated, and this is what I say all the time. And people reduce what's going on to just racism or xenophobia or whatever, being against a specific religion, and I think that's not fair. This, exactly what I'm talking about right here, is where the left and the right seem to divide, where they look at certain statements like this and then they come away with the conclusion that someone is racist or whatever other is that they could be, and then people on the right don't. And yeah, I don't see it as racist, and I've long ago come to the conclusion that people look at the exact same situation and they see it differently, and that's just what's occurring here and will probably occur many more times in the future. I think the result of the left trying to use certain groups to represent them means that you're trying to dress up socialism in diversity, and you're combining identity politics based on race with socialism, and I think that's bad. Like, socialism dressed up in diversity is still socialism, and so you should be allowed to criticize those things. Yes, you could do it nicer than the way Trump did it, but you should be able to criticize those things without it automatically being an attack on the person's origin. Like, they've set it up so that, maybe with good intentions, so that once you criticize this group, then you're automatically a bad person, and people are seeing through that. They have seen through it for a long time, but it's becoming more and more ridiculous, in my opinion. You know, that guy, the other politician, Andrew Yang, said that he was against identity politics, and I was almost like, oh my god, this is cool. There's a politician who's against identity politics even though he's on the left. Like, I would so like that. But he was still he's basically for UBI, you know, with his $1,000 a month, and that's welfare and another form of socialism, even though it's probably not any worse than what already exists in the country. So you could choose the lesser of two evils, I guess. But that's the power of identity politics. I'm so against it, and so many people are so fed up with it that they will take socialism because to tone down the crescendo of identity politics that exists right now. I was almost swayed. So when I look at articles coming up from, say, Vox, and I see what people are saying, they're saying that he was suggesting that people of color are not really Americans and just calling him racist, and then he was just criticizing them because they were foreigners. I think that's just too simple of a perspective to have on the issue. There's more going on than that. Apparently, he made some tweets later where he was focusing more on Ilhan Omar, and he was going on about her comments on Al-Qaeda. I've mentioned it before. I think her irreverence and insensitivity to American patriotism will piss off a lot of people on the right, the more like traditionally conservative side, as I understand it. But I don't think it was that bad, her comments, and I do think that, like, if I tried to put myself in the shoes of people who really value patriotism, I can see how it would piss them off. I personally don't have that within me, and a lot of people don't have that. You know, like, I like the US and everything, but I don't, not to that level. Like that sort of nationalistic pride to where you would, I don't know, I'm not a fan of wars and stuff like that. So even if people say it's for a good cause, and it's usually more complicated than that. There's lots of geopolitics going on and things like that. So I don't feel personally hurt because she makes comments like that, but some people would. But I also think that the left does the same thing, where they focus on values that are important to them and their base. So I didn't really care about that. So that's what I think about that topic. I tried to really explain how I see it as bad but purposeful and even effective because of what I think the left has created in America with their focus on identity politics. And I'm personally sick of it. My very first video is me talking about how sick I am of it, and a lot of people are. And Trump's comments were interesting and typical. That's what I think. Thank you for watching. If you like my content, please donate. Just thinking out loud.tv/donate. I should actually put that at the beginning. I really want to keep making this content. I can't do it if I can't support myself doing it. And you can't do that through conventional means anymore. Things are changing. So support the channel. Just thinking out loud.tv/donate. Subscribe if you're new here so that you can get more content. My content differs. It's not always the same. And some of it is more serious and more researched than other times. I'm on other platforms. There are links below and in the video. And I also have a podcast version of this that you can listen to. Thank you for watching or listening. Have a great day. I'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.